After working with creatives for the last 11 years, I've heard one statement more than any other. I hate marketing. I get it. It can be painful trying to figure out how to market your book or movie or comic. When I started podcasting, I had no clue how to do any of it. I was afraid of doing it wrong, looking like an idiot or making a marketing mistake that I could not recover from. It can be paralyzing. Sound familiar? If it does, let me see if I can help you. I got my MBA in marketing, so you don't have to. Sign up for a free session today to talk about your marketing goals and to see if we're a good fit. If nothing else, you'll get some insights that might ease your mind. Go to southgatesmallbusiness.com and sign up for a free session today. Welcome to Alley Chats. I'm your host, Rob Southgate. Alley Chats is a virtual artist alley featuring interviews with artists, filmmakers, podcasters, writers, really any creative person you might find at a pop culture convention. My goal is to help draw attention to cool people and to hopefully help them get some new fans. I want this podcast to raise up these amazing people and to inspire you, the listener, to chase your dreams as well. You can follow Alley Chats on Facebook and join the conversation. I'll add more social media in the future, but for now, that's the best place to interact with me. You can also email me directly if you would like to be a guest or have a guest suggestion. My email is rob@smgpods.com. Well, I feel like we've already done a podcast here. I've been talking to today's guest, Leigh Kenney, another horror author, another person involved with Books and Brews, which we've been talking about all month. Books and Brews, I'm going to say it again. Double Clutch Brewing Company in Evanston, Illinois on August 3rd. Come on down, meet all the horror authors, including Leigh Kenney, who you're going to get to know in a few minutes here. Leigh, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm really excited to get into this conversation. We've been talking for like a half hour already, and then I realized, we should probably hit record. So Leigh, let's start with this. Why don't you tell people, give them a little background, tell them who you are, what you do.
I'm Irish. I write horror. I'm very recent to the horror thing, to the writing thing even. I was a reader, always primarily a reader.
Okay.
I find reading is the best form of escapism. So I've always been into reading. I know there's a lot of authors who are they're almost born into horror. You know, they've been reading the classics since they were able to read a book and stuff like that. That wasn't me. I was kind of late to the party. I was terrified of horror films, terrified of all the horror stuff. And then at some point, I just wasn't. I'm not even sure what happened. I think I just slowly graduated into darker and darker stuff. And yeah, then last year, an open call went out for a horror anthology, and I was like, why not write it? People always say that if you're going to write, you should write what you want to read. And that's literally what I did. I took a story idea that I wanted. It was at that time, I was like, I'd like to read about this. And there wasn't really anything there. So I wrote the story, submitted it. It got published, and it just formed something entirely. So since that time, that was March 2023 that first happened. And I've been like published a ton of times in anthologies since then. I've released my debut. I'm about to release my second. I've done signing events in the UK and about to do one in Chicago. It's
very exciting.
Wild. It's kind of like it just. I'm not even sure. I haven't caught up yet with all the things that have been happening.
Right.
But it's great. Like, and I'm just this little nobody from Ireland, you know. But like, I know they say the land of saints and scholars and all that, but like, it's actually surprisingly hard to do the writing thing here because there isn't really much of a market for horror in Ireland. There aren't really conventions. There's nothing really like that. Like, as it stands, I'm actually struggling to get my own books. There's no stores in Ireland to carry my books. My books are on more American shelves than they are on Irish shelves.
I am really surprised to hear that. I would have thought Ireland had a good horror scene, but well, it must be underground.
And it's all definitely, yeah, like you'll have there's a lot of alternative markets and stuff, but no, if I was to write romance and stuff like that, or maybe a mystery thriller, then yeah, it's the same as everywhere. I suppose some genres are more popular than others.
Yeah. Yeah, so horror's just not having its moment in Ireland, but
No,
maybe you'll
and
be
we're lucky
the
because
reason
we
it
have some
does.
amazing horror authors here, like Keelan Patrick Burke. Like he'd be one of my writing idols, and he's like his writing. Now he's an expat; he lives in America, I think now, but his writing is just it's somehow really, really horrific, but really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
Like it's haunting, it's dark, it's everything. If you haven't read Keelan Patrick Burke, do it. I highly
Okay.
recommend.
Pro
But
tip.
yeah, definitely. But like we have AM Shine, like one of the I can't say the surname, Shyamalan. The guy that makes the horror films, M
Oh,
Night.
yes,
His
M.
his
Night
daughter,
Shyamalan.
yes,
Shyamalan.
his daughter, I think her name is Irina. She just made a movie of an Irish guy's horror book,
Oh,
The
really?
Watchers. Yeah, The Watchers by AM Shine. It's very
That
recent.
okay. So that's an
Yeah.
Irish author, and I didn't know that
It
was
is,
M. Night
yes. I
Shyamalan's
believe
daughter.
he's from, yeah, no, I believe he's from Galway, possibly.
Wow, because I've been
But
reading, I didn't even know this book, and I saw the movie poster, and I was like, oh, that looks interesting. And then I started reading about the book and went, wow, I have to read this book. Now I really have to read this book, now
yeah,
that I know.
well, fun fact, they actually filmed a lot of the movie in my county in Wicklow. They were looking for extras because I was so tempted just because it's horror. But then I was like, who has time for that? So, no, I didn't.
Oh, too bad. Too
Yeah.
bad. So, okay, your first book that you put out was Cursed. That was your first novel. And then the new one that's coming out, and I want to make sure I get this all right here. It is coming out August
25th.
25th. You know what? I have all my notes and everything here. And of course, the one thing I can't find is the thing that I need, right? Oh, here it is.
That's always
Yes.
the way.
Hush My Darling coming out August 25th. So it's not going to be out in time for Books and Brews.
It's not, but I will have early copies.
All right. I want you to hold one for me because I would love to get this and get you to sign it. That would be
Yeah,
fabulous.
absolutely.
Uh, so yeah, I was reading the description. Uh, in fact, I'm going to read the descriptions of both real quick. So for Cursed, your first book. Now, when did the first book come out?
The first book came out in December, and it's not set in Ireland. It's set a lot more ambiguously.
Okay.
As opposed to Hush. Hush is going to be Hush is very much Irish based.
So here's the description on Amazon. Have you ever agreed to something without understanding the consequences? What would you do if a cursed object came into your possession? Right there, Leigh, you already have me. Right there, I'm ordering the book. You're right. Burn it, seek spiritual help, pass it on. This is the impossible choice Curtis must face. To the sinister entity is thrust upon him. I don't need to read the rest of it because we obviously have a cursed object. We obviously have a guy terrified that's having to deal with it. It sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
I also
Well,
like how they said the grudge meets drag me to hell. That's how they described it at the bottom. Yeah, there's nothing you're saying here that doesn't make me want to immediately buy this.
well, that's good.
So have you dealt with cursed objects? I mean, if we want to get
Um,
paranormal for a minute.
no, do you know how the idea for Curse came about? It's more to do with my imagination than
Okay.
anything. Last summer, my teenage son was, teenagers that have to have the latest, this, that, and the other. But my teenage son wanted this jacket, so I ordered him the jacket. It arrived from, I think it was from China, and I gave him the jacket, and in the bottom of the box there was this long black hair stuck. And as I said, I didn't grow up watching horror, but when I eventually did, the kind of horror that terrifies me is human monsters and those pasty white women with the long dark hair that come and get me. You know what I mean? I am
The
terrified of them.
grudge,
Yes,
the
the
grudge,
grudge,
the
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 ring. Oh my
ring.
God, yes, they get me. But I seen this black hair and I was like, oh God, this box is from China. It's got long black hair. Like, you know what I mean? Asian horror is some of the best,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to those kind of entities. So I was going around the house and it was living in my head rent free. I was like, brushing my teeth at night. I was like, I'm gonna look in the mirror now and she's gonna be behind me. Somebody's gonna be there. You know,
Yep.
I'd be in bed and I'd hear a creak and I'd be like, something's falling up the stairs. It's going to take me.
But it's
I
crawling up the stairs with his elbows bent
Oh
backwards as it
yeah,
comes up. And
they always
yep.
have to be in like funny poses that
And then when it
aren't
gets in your
natural.
ear, it goes, ah.
Oh, thank you for the nightmares. But
Yeah.
eventually it was like, you know what, I'm gonna write this. This is gonna make a great short story. So it started that way and then it just grew legs and it became Cursed. And
Don't say
Cursed was
grew
never
legs
meant to
and
be,
became cursed.
yeah, it was never meant to actually, it was meant to have a better title. Cursed was supposed to be the working title, but it kind of just grew on me and it stayed. I never changed, I suppose. You know, I wanted one of those fancy titles, you know, like those Eric the Rocket titles, the
Yeah.
tree grew because I've led there, all that kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
it was like, you know what, Cursed works. It's short, it's sharp, it's Cursed.
Well, it's got a great cover too. Like I look at it and it makes me want to buy it.
The cover, oh my God, as soon as I saw that cover, I was like, that is because I worried that I wouldn't find, I'm so specific and I knew I wanted something that jumped out at me. And
Yeah.
I searched so many websites, so many artist pages. And then I came across Christy Aldrich from Grim Poppy Design. And I was just having a little scoop through her pictures and it was there and it jumped out at me. And it was like, I think it was a year or two old. And I was like, I'm gonna ask, but she's gonna tell me that's long gone. So I was
Yeah.
like, is there any chance that's still available? And she was like, it is. So that was as soon as that I was like, I want it, I'm taking it, it's mine.
Wow. It was just
And
waiting for you, it feels
it's
like.
yeah, and it's absolutely perfect for the book. Like I owe Christy so much because like that cover, like to be fair, people do judge a book by its cover, and the cover helps with
Definitely.
first. So like it grabs your attention. You know what I mean?
So Hush My Darling is the next one.
It is.
I'm going to read this description because I love this description too. In pursuit of peace and family ties, American tourist Megan goes on a road trip around Ireland. When she becomes stranded deep in the mountains, the Brogan family comes to her rescue. But is it luck or is Megan's nightmare just beginning? Okay, I'm already dealing with the hills have eyes in Ireland. I'm just telling you that. The Wicklow Mountains offer breathtaking beauty to all who venture in. It looks like you're writing a travel log here, where nature abounds, where solitude beckons, where no one can hear you scream. It's no longer a travel log. It is now a nightmare.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
and then you mentioned Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Deliverance. I mean, yeah, this I was hoping it was out. That's why I'm like, I hope you have it there because this, I know that I'm going to read it and immediately my wife is going to be all over it. It takes place in Wicklow. I mean, this is going to be
It
great.
as I say, my two things for horror are like pasty pale entities and human monsters. If Cursed was my pasty pale entity, this is my human monster.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And it
and
helps that the Wicklow Mountains from my back door where I live by the coast, but I can see the mountains from my back door. So the entire time that I was writing the book, I'd be standing at the back door here and there because I was a smoker for many years. I actually gave up a month ago. Go me. But
go you.
every time I stood at the back door to have a smoke, I'd be looking at, and I kind of had it in my head because I was writing it to me. Like when I'm writing to me, the characters are real. It's happening, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, poor Megan, you know, I'm standing here having a cigarette, and poor Megan's like going through all kinds of things over there in the mountains.
If you listen, maybe you'll faintly hear her scream.
Yeah, and now you see nobody can hear her
They
scream. She's in the
can't hear
mountains.
her. Right,
Yeah,
right.
no one can hear you.
So you said you didn't start necessarily in horror. What is it that drew you to horror?
Um, I I'm not really sure to be honest. I tend to think that it's a mental health thing. For me personally, I would have suffered on and off with my mental health for a long time since kind of since my teens, but it was exacerbated when I had my first child. Postnatal depression kind of blossomed. It wasn't recognized for what it was, and it kind
Sure.
of got out of control. And I found horror is it's like the purest form of escapism. Like it's very easy to forget the darkness and the sadness, the horrors, whatever are going on inside your own mind when you're immersed in pretend horrors, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
like
great. So it's very
fictional stuff.
therapeutic.
Well, oh, absolutely. And like there would be different horrors for different moods. Like I would switch, you know, some genres depending on my humor. Like there'd be some horrors that would be too much for me to read when I'm in a good humor. But if I'm feeling particularly down, it actually helps lift my mood because some of it is so dark that it's almost like things could be worse, you know. And I
Yeah.
actually done some reading because I suffered a lot. My depression and stuff cleared up quite a bit, but anxiety kind of replaced it. And anxiety, it's so difficult to live with. You know, like I became quite agoraphobic and stuff, where I didn't want to leave the house, things like that.
Yeah.
And I'm very social, so it kind of crept up on me to the point where, you realize something is wrong and you couldn't quite put your finger on it till
Yeah.
you realize, oh, I need to go to the post office, and yet, my heart is racing and I'm doing everything to avoid doing it. And I continued to read horror, and I found that it helped me regulate somehow. And I done some reading online and done some research. And there are actually quite a few studies that have looked into it, and that they maintain that reading horror is beneficial to people with anxiety because it can help reset the brain to
Yeah.
recognize actual threats as opposed to perceived threats.
Yeah. I've actually heard the same thing. And in fact, it's funny because so many of the authors I've spoken to for this show and for all the shows I've done over the 11 years, uh, people in horror film, people, horror authors, a lot of them tell me about how maybe as a kid they were completely terrified of horror. And they think it's funny that they ended up in horror, but then they're like, yeah, but it helped. And I think that's what you're getting at too. It's
Yeah,
like
it's therapeutic.
it's therapeutic. It's really interesting, because the general populace, when they start complaining about horror, oh, it causes this and it causes that. It's because they don't understand. It's kind of like I was reading about people that have aggression issues and that are trying to work through it. And a lot of times they'll say, yeah, if they listen to like Swedish metal music, which is so harsh and everything, they go, it actually like it's external and it calms it all down.
Yeah.
Whereas the populace says, "Oh, you listen to that,
It
it
turns
causes
them,
this."
it makes them angry. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the opposite. It's the opposite. So that's really interesting. So you keep mentioning these authors you love. I'm gonna put you on the spot. Give me 3 horror authors that you absolutely love to read. I want 3 just off the top of your head.
Okay. Well, I'm going to start by saying I won't say Stephen King. I do love him, but I feel like he's the obvious answer. He's the go-to for all, you know.
Sure.
So I'm gonna say Keelan Patrick Burke because I've already said him and he's the best. I love him. I'd also like to add that his little blurb is on the front cover of my new book. So, woohoo.
Alright.
That's a bucket list item right there.
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
number two, Ronald Malcolm. Ronald is at Books and Brews too. I highly recommend picking up some of his stuff and reading it. It's the kind of thing he could write about painting a fence brown and I would read it because he has such a way with words.
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody to be able to create a character the way he does. Like, you don't just read his books, you kind of live them.
Sure, sure.
He draws you in completely. So 100% Ronald Malfi. And like, it's not even horror. It's not terrifying horror. It's just it creeps in on you.
Mhm.
But yeah, 100% Ronald Malfi. And number three, I'm going to say Jeff Long because he wrote my favorite horror book. I think it's the only horror book he's written, to be honest.
Okay.
Um, but
What book is it?
The Descent. It's,
Oh.
and
Yeah,
a lot
yeah,
of people
yeah.
yeah, a lot of people kind of, I think, seem to think that the movie The Descent is based on the book, and like they probably did get a loose idea, the whole underground humanoid thing, but that's kind of where the similarities end. Like Jeff Long's book, The Descent, is just it's like a whole, you know what I mean? It's like I don't even know how to describe it. It's like the Lord of the Rings of horror. There's just so much world building and so many layers, and
Yeah.
it's absolutely, and it's, would you believe when I first read it, in the first chapter, I was sure I was going to put it down and give up on it because it just wasn't grabbing me. And I
Yeah.
was like, no, you bought the book, just give it a chance, give it a couple of chapters. And all of a sudden the book was over and I didn't know what to do with my life anymore. So I went and I spent a ridiculous amount of money on the sequel, and I swallowed that whole. And then I was really sad because it was definitely set up for a third, and there was no third ever written. So that's my, when people ask who would you like to have dinner with, that's who I want to have dinner with. I need to sit down with Jeff Long. Jeff Long, if you're watching this, could you please contact me and discuss? I'll co-write with you if you want, but we need a third. We need that trilogy.
Jeff Long, I hope you're hearing this. I'm going to
Yeah.
tag Jeff Long in this. So,
I've actually looked. I've tried to email him. The man seems to just I don't think he wants to be in the public eye. He seems to have lived such an amazing life, though. I genuinely would love to sit down with him. Aside from the descent, I'd love to sit down and just talk to him about all the
yeah.
stuff he's done.
Want more shows like this? We've got a lot more on the Southgate Media Group Patreon page. Some free, some paid. Plus, there's exclusive content for subscribers only. Follow the link in the show notes or look up Southgate Media Group on Patreon and check out the cool stuff we're doing over there. You won't be sorry. On August 3rd, 2024, Books of Horror is presenting Books and Brews at Double Clutch Brewing Company in Evanston, Illinois. There will be over 40 horror authors for a book signing and meetup from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. that day. Meet your favorite authors, discover new authors, meet Books of Horror friends in real life, including the author I'm talking with on this podcast. Oh, and I'll be there too. This is an all-ages event. Food, alcohol, and non-alcoholic beverages will be available. No outside food or drinks will be allowed. Search for Books of Horror Presents Books and Brews on Facebook events for more information, or click on the link in the show notes. I hope to see you there. It's really funny that you did that, because one of the questions I ask on this show, on Alley Chats, is if you were at a convention, your dream convention, who is the number one person you'd want to meet?
Well, you know mine.
I know yours. I didn't get to ask the question. So you killed two birds with one stone there. That's incredible. So since you are so new at it, is there any advice that you would give to a new author, somebody trying or saying they want to be an author?
No man is an island. That's one thing I've seen. I still see some people come into the community and they kind of are a little too competitive. They kind of see everybody's competition. They want to do everything by themselves and pat themselves on the back for things, but that's not going to get you in most things, but definitely in writing, it's not going to, like, we need each other.
Yeah.
When, like, nobody reads just one book. If one person succeeds in the industry, we all succeed, especially in a small niche genre like horror. Like, the way it's true. Like, if one of us is winning, we are all winning. What is that thing that a rising tide it's all boat?
Right.
That's the thing. Yeah, like we do. We rely. I came into the community knowing nobody in it, and now I've got at least 10 close friends. Like, I've loads of friends now. I've loads of connections. I've done loads of networking. I've loads of people I can, like, ask for advice or turn to for help. But even as I say, at that, I still have at least 10 who I've become really close. And, like, they're not just people I go to for advice now, they're friends that, like, I have relationships with beyond the writing.
Yeah.
Like, the community will give you back just as much as you put into it, usually more than you put into it. But you have to put something into it. You know what I mean? You have to be willing to give as much as you take from it.
That is a great answer. It's been my experience. In fact, I'm going to highlight the group right now, this event, in fact. So I've been interviewing the different authors that are on this event. And some of them I actually know, some of them I was friends with before. Some of them, like you, I'd never met, and now I feel like we're fast friends. And one of the really interesting things that I've noticed in the group is everybody, all the authors seem to be fans of the other authors. They are, like, I was interviewing the one person, I don't want to name names. You got to listen to the show to hear these. But he started talking about a couple of different authors that are going to be at the event. And he said, these are like bucket list authors for me to meet. And he said, and I'm in the same group with them. He's like, I'm intimidated to even write to them. And then I was interviewing one of those two guys, and he happened to mention that guy and said, have you read this by that guy? It's so good. And I went, This is fabulous. You guys are all getting together. There's going to be a lot of love. The fans love all this stuff. And you are right. Uh, so we used to own retail and we had a baby store. And there were other baby stores kind of in the neighborhood, and they were all very competitive. And people would come into us and say, first of all, why did you open in this hot market? Okay, well, because we knew we'd do well. They'd say, but what about these other stores? And we'd always say what you're saying. We'd say, they could open up next door to me. I want them to, I want to share ideas. I want to be supportive because if I'm doing my thing right, people are going to shop with me. And if they're doing their thing right, they're going to shop with them. There's plenty to go around. And with horror
Yeah.
authors, it's imperative that you guys are not in a bubble, although there are people in any genre that are in a bubble. But the ones that are out there talking to each other and sharing things, I saw a panel with it was Daniel Kraus, Josh Mallerman, Christina Henry, and Joe Hill. So three of which are going to be at Books and Brews.
Yes, I'm very excited about Daniel Krause.
And but they all just got along so swimmingly and seemed genuinely excited to be with each other. And whether they knew each other or not, you know what I mean? It was just
Yeah.
it was really great. So you are right. That is fabulous advice. No one is an island. And if they are, maybe they want to start building some bridges and find out how good it is to not just
Yeah,
be an island.
definitely.
Okay, I have one more question for you. This is probably the hardest question of the whole thing, so be ready.
Oh
It's
no.
not. It's not. I'm kidding. This is your first time in Chicagoland.
It is.
What is the thing you are most wanting to do here?
Um, can I pick two things?
Yeah, sure. I
They're
break the
both
rules all the time. So
Yeah, well, I live my life breaking the rules. They're both food related, so they're technically one anyway. But I'm dying to try the pizza because, like, deep dish Chicago pizza. I mean, we have a frozen equivalent here in Ireland, and it's my favorite. So I'm really looking forward to trying real Chicago pizza
mhm.
and the McDonald's global restaurant. I
Okay.
want it so bad,
You just want it so
so bad.
all right. So I think that the group is going to be going to Lou Malnati's Pizza. I think that's what one of them told me.
Oh, I've
It,
already looked at their menu.
okay, so if you were to ask me, or you met my wife Maeve, if you were to ask either one of us, what's the best Chicago pizza? It's Lou Malnati's. So you are going to the best.
Nice.
Um, the
But at least if I'm gonna do it once, I'll do it right.
Yeah, do it right. I mean, literally, you could throw a rock and hit a great place. I mean, there's so many good pizzas here. That just happens to be the one that, if we're gone, like we lived in Minneapolis for a while, we'd come home, we'd go past my parents, past her parents, go to Lou Malnati's, go up to, no, we'd go up to Super Dog, which was the best hot dog in Chicago. Then we drive back, and my mom would have to my mom's, and she'd have a Lou Malnati's hot on the table for us every time. So Lou Malnati's is the place to go.
I'm
So that's
so
great.
excited about pizza. They're
Well,
probably gonna have to like roll me back onto the plane.
I believe that we're going to be at that same Lumalnati's dinner, so we'll get to
Oh,
break some
yay!
bread there, have some cheese, and yeah, you're gonna learn it is fabulous pizza. Oh, it's gonna make you sad when you
Yeah,
go home. You'll be like, I can't, I'm missing it. What's the
and yeah, I'm
frozen
probably gonna
pizza?
have to like keep coming back to Chicago just for the pizza.
What's the frozen pizza there? The one that's the equivalent.
It's called Chicago Town.
Hmm,
That's the brand.
okay.
Yeah, it's just Chicago Town. They do a nice stuffed crust takeaway, or they do a small personal deep dish pizza, and both very very tasty.
Next time
They're
we're
the
there,
only
we'll have to
ones that
try
do a
it.
tomato sauce stuffed crust. Everybody else seems to do cheese stuffed crust, which is not for me. I prefer like the tomato sauce stuffed crust.
Wait till you have Lou's. I can't wait to hear that.
Yeah, everybody's probably going to be sitting watching me eat the pizza because they know I'm so excited about it.
I'm going to
It's
be
just as well
watching.
it doesn't bother me to eat in front of people. I like to make direct eye contact with people while I'm eating, so for dominance.
Yeah, right, right. Okay. Well, Leigh, this was really wonderful. I cannot wait to meet you in person. Everybody, buy Leigh's books. You can pre-order right now on Amazon. I see it. You can pre-order her book, My Darling. I just went out of my head. Hush, My Darling. It is for
Push my
pre-order right
darling.
now on Amazon.
And
You
I
can
will
also
have early copies available at Books and Brews. Just a limited number, but we'll have them nonetheless.
Excellent. Excellent. And you can get signatures and get a selfie, and you can tell her that she's got pizza on her face because it's likely going to happen. And the other thing is follow her on social media. I'll put your social media in the show notes, but follow her. Do you have a newsletter?
I don't. I'm in the process of setting one up, but for in the meantime, people can follow me on social media. I promise I'm like funny sometimes, a little bit
Sometimes.
chaotic.
So
Sometimes
follow
a
her on
little
social
chaotic
media.
all the time.
Follow her on social media, and then when that newsletter comes out, pick up that newsletter and share this with your friends. The way that we spread the word about authors and any type of creative endeavor, especially somebody who's, doesn't have Simon and Schuster pushing their thing out through
Yes.
advertising, is you share it. You like something like Hush My Darling, share it and say, hey, I'm reading this new book. It's great. That exposes your friends to it. You never know who's going to be reading it and think, oh my God, I have to have this book. So share Leigh's stuff. Leigh, we will see you at Double Clutch Brewing Company August 3rd.
Yay, I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks, Leigh. Have a great day.
Thanks for having me, Rob. Bye.
It would really help me out if you would rate and review this show on whatever platform you use to listen to this podcast. Good reviews help others find the show, which ultimately helps the people I've interviewed get more exposure. You can connect with me on social media or via email. All the links are found in the show notes. If you like this show, you'll like other shows from Southgate Media Group as well, such as Read Between the Lines, a podcast featuring insightful interviews with some of the hottest authors out there, or Go Fund This, a podcast where we interview people about their amazing crowdfunding projects. You can find our shows wherever you listen to podcasts, so give them a try. And if you like what you hear, don't forget to rate and review our shows. It really helps other people find them and keep our team inspired. Alley Chats is a production of Southgate Media Group, hosted, produced, and edited by me, Rob Southgate. Thanks again for listening to Alley Chats.